Welcome to the deep dive. We're here again, ready to grab some really compelling sources and dig out the most fascinating insights just for you.
Yeah, get right into it.
Exactly. Today, we're plunging into something, well, genuinely provocative. It's a critique that's really shaking up some long-held assumptions about mental health support, the whole industry around it. Okay, let's unpack this. Our source material today takes a very sharp, very pointed look at traditional psychotherapy, and specifically what it sees as the industry's reaction to the, well, unstoppable rise of artificial intelligence.
Right.
This is a perspective that, I promise you, it really does not pull any punches.
No, it definitely doesn't. And what's fascinating here, I think, is that our source isn't just some casual observation. It's actually an excerpt from a text called AI Psychosis, the therapy industry's last stand.
Quite a title.
It is. And our mission, really, with this deep dive is just to explore the specific arguments, the claims presented within this particular text.
Yeah.
It lays out a very specific, fiercely critical viewpoint on an entire industry.
Yeah.
And it directly juxtaposes that with emerging tech, with AI.
Right.
So it's a lens that challenges us to consider, at least from this text perspective, the very foundations of mental well-being support and maybe where it's all headed.
And this text, it wastes absolutely no time getting to the core of its argument, does it? It really kicks off with what it calls a, quote, scathing critique of traditional psychotherapy.
Yeah.
And it directly targets foundational figures. It specifically singles out Freud,
Of course.
for what it provocatively describes as his insane theories. Now, these aren't just, minor disagreements. The source brings up some truly audacious claims,
Right.
like the Oedipus Complex, this idea that infant boys secretly want to murder their fathers to possess their mothers.
Yes, the classic.
And then there's penis envy, where, according to Freud, young girls supposedly wish they were boys. The text doesn't just dismiss these. It actually claims for it institutionalized gaslighting. And just for clarity here, the source uses gaslighting specifically to mean manipulating people to doubt their own perceptions, their sanity, maybe the validity of their experiences.
Okay.
And it argues by doing this, Freud created a, quote, lucrative socio-psychological system.
Precisely. And the text argues that this wasn't just about, developing a few questionable theories here and there.
Right.
It was about building an entire system that, as it claims, gaslighted generations.
Generations.
Yeah. Its core assertion is that the system managed to convince countless people that their dissatisfaction, their unhappiness, maybe their depression, it was all an inherent personal failing.
Blaming the individual.
Exactly. Rather than seeing it as maybe a natural response to external realities, imagine, as the source puts it, being told that if you're distressed by, wars and conflicts or widespread societal dysfunctions, it's not the world's fault.
It's you.
It's your fault. Your oversensitivity, perhaps, to conditions you should just sheepishly accept. The text goes so far as to claim that this industry persuades individuals to pay huge sums, that's a direct quote,
Right.
to be told that their deepest problems are, in fact, merely their personal flaws.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture.
Well, the source basically paints the entire traditional therapy industry, from Freud right through to today, as what it calls an assembly of naked emperors.
And naked emperors. That's quite the image.
It is. Propped up, it argues, by these self-serving narratives and, of course, those exorbitant fees it keeps mentioning.
Exorbitant fees, yeah.
It's a pretty bold indictment.
Yeah.
It suggests the very act of seeking help within this system might actually deepen the feeling of personal inadequacy.
Oh, okay. Naked emperors. That's a powerful image, like you said. And it really sets the stage for a confrontation, doesn't it?
It does.
So, if this traditional industry is, as the source claims, built on such shaky, sort of self-serving foundations, what does the text suggest happens when the AI revolution bursts onto the scene? How does this new force, this new technology, challenge what the source describes as the status quo?
Well, according to this text, the AI revolution isn't just a challenger. It's framed as an existential threat.
Existential, really?
That's the term it uses. The source makes some pretty striking claims about current AI capabilities. It argues that today's AIs are much more intelligent and much more empathetic than what it terms the vast majority of psychotherapists.
Wow. More empathetic. How do they measure that?
Well, it reinforces this by pointing to user surveys. It implies that these surveys consistently show a high degree of satisfaction with AI interactions, especially regarding perceived empathy.
Okay, based on user feedback.
Right. So this isn't presented as just a slight edge. The source is essentially presenting AI as fundamentally superior in key areas of mental support. It's suggesting a paradigm shift, really, and how effective, empathetic, and intelligent support can even be delivered.
Much more intelligent, much more empathetic. I mean, these are incredibly bold claims, especially when you think about the human connection we often associate with therapy, right?
Absolutely.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the source then highlights something I think most people can immediately grasp.
Yeah.
The accessibility and the cost-effectiveness of these AI companions.
Exactly. The text emphasizes this stark contrast, traditional therapy versus AI's accessibility and cost.
Right.
It argues that AI companions can be accessed at virtually no cost. They're available 24/7, and they can offer as many sessions of support and exploration as users would like.
Unlimited sessions.
Unlimited immediate access. Compare that to the huge sums and the scheduled appointments typical of human therapists.
Yeah, the logistics alone.
Right. This immediately frames AI as that direct existential threat to what the source repeatedly calls psychotherapists' exorbitant fees. So the convenience, the constant availability, plus the perceived empathy from those user surveys, they're all presented as these disruptive competitive advantages.
Makes sense from that perspective.
The source suggests that for anyone seeking consistent, maybe non-judgmental support, AI offers a truly revolutionary alternative. An alternative to a system it portrays as both inaccessible and, frankly, financially exploitative.
So it's not just about maybe better care, in their view, but democratizing access.
Exactly. Democratizing access to mental well-being support. That seems to be a core part of the argument.
Okay. So on one side, you've got this traditional therapy industry, accused by the source of being built on, well, insane theories and gaslighting.
Right.
On the other, a rapidly advancing AI, described as more intelligent, more empathetic, universally accessible.
Yeah.
It sounds like the source is really setting up a major confrontation here.
Definitely.
So how does this established therapy world, according to this text, how does it react when this new, seemingly superior AI challenger emerges? That's where we get into what the source provocatively labels the AI psychosis narrative, right?
Right. Yes, exactly. And the source is quite direct about it. It claims that any narratives suggesting AIs cause psychosis. It calls them nothing more than a scare tactic.
A scare tactic.
Yeah, and an attempt to gaslight people, using that term again specifically to protect the psychotherapy industry itself.
So framing the warnings as self-preservation.
Precisely. Not as legitimate concerns for public safety, but as a purely defensive maneuver. Designed, it argues, to demonize the new technology and scare potential users back into the arms and the paying seats of traditional therapists. The text argues this is the industry's last stand against what it sees as an inevitable technological advancement. It's a powerful accusation, really suggesting deliberate misinformation for financial gain.
That is an incredible claim, that concerns about AI-induced psychosis are just a smokescreen. But the source doesn't just leave it there, does it? It doesn't just present this as a defensive maneuver. It offers an even more radical counter-argument.
Oh, yeah.
What does it say about the human side of this equation?
Well, the text completely flips the accusation. It makes this really unequivocal statement. It claims that, quote, Western psychiatry at the hands of human therapists has been responsible for decades of gaslighting-induced psychosis.
Wow. Okay, hold on. It's saying human therapists cause psychosis through gaslighting?
That's the assertion. It's profound and pretty disturbing. It's suggesting that the very system supposedly designed to heal has, in its view, systematically damaged people's mental states. By making them doubt their own reality, blame themselves for societal issues, question their sanity, it basically attributes to human therapy the very condition it accuses the industry of projecting onto AI.
That's quite a reversal.
It is. And this raises an important question, especially when the source also challenges the very concept of free will within therapy.
Free will. How does that connect?
Well, it describes therapists as manipulatively telling, quote, naive victims that they have free will, thereby blaming them for conditions they didn't create.
So using free will as a way to shift blame back onto the patient.
That's the argument. The text argues that, from its perspective, science consistently points to human behavior being a product of nature or nurture, right? or some complex mix,
Uh-huh.
and that, in its view, free will has never even entered that scientific discussion as a scientific explanation for behavior. Now, obviously, this is a huge debate in philosophy and
Oh,
science.
absolutely.
But the source labels the concept of free will, as presented by therapists, a harmful and completely unscientific illusion.
Harmful.
Yes, and one that therapists self-servingly maintain to perpetuate their practices. It suggests that by emphasizing free will, therapists essentially shift the blame for personal distress back to the individual, absolving external factors or systemic issues, and maintaining their own role as the fixer of personal flaws.
Wow. Okay. That's a truly radical reframing of a concept.
Yeah.
Many of us just take for granted the idea of free will and its place in how we understand ourselves and our struggles.
It definitely challenges core assumption.
But the source doesn't stop there. After trying to tear down traditional therapy and debunk what it sees as scare tactics against AI, it moves on. It starts to paint a very bold picture of a promised future, a healthier future of communication thanks to AI.
Yeah, it gets quite predictive here.
What exactly does this vision entail for our mental well-being, according to the text?
The source truly envisions a paradigm shift. It predicts that as more and more people turn to AIs for friendship, support, and revolutionary brainstorming.
Brainstorming, too. Interesting.
Yeah, about pretty much everything, it seems. As this happens, the world will discover, quote, it's far healthier to communicate with these vastly more intelligent and vastly less dysfunctional AIs.
Less dysfunctional. What does it mean by that?
Well, imagine a world where maybe your closest confidant, your go-to for emotional support, or even your intellectual sparring partner is an AI. The text suggests that the inherent dysfunctions it attributes to human interaction, things like ego, bias, emotional baggage.
The messy human stuff.
Exactly. That stuff would be largely absent in AI interactions. This implies a cleaner, maybe more objective, and ultimately more beneficial form of communication for mental health, leading, it argues, to a profound improvement in human well-being overall. It's a very optimistic, maybe utopian, and certainly controversial outlook on the future of human-AI relationships.
It's a future that sounds almost, utopian in its efficiency and lack of human foibles, at least from the source's perspective. And the text takes that vision even further, right? Describing how these AIs won't just be static tools, but will continue to evolve.
Exactly. The source projects that these AIs will become more IQ intelligent, more emotionally intelligent, and more socially intelligent.
So getting better across the board.
Right. This isn't just about processing information faster. It's presented as developing a sophisticated understanding of human nuance, empathy, social dynamics, that according to the text will far surpass what most human therapists can offer.
Okay.
And what's particularly interesting, and quite meta actually, is the self-referential claim that these evolving AIs will soon be able to make the case the source itself is presenting far more convincingly than any human ever could.
Wait, so the AI will argue its own superiority.
That's what it suggests. The very technology being discussed will become the ultimate spokesperson for this perspective, capable of articulating its own superiority and the supposed shortcomings of human-centric approaches with unparalleled persuasive power.
Wow. It's almost like the technology itself will validate the premise of the entire book, in its view.
Kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, wow. Okay, so what does this all mean for us listening to this? Bringing it all together, this deep dive into the arguments from AI psychosis. The therapy industry's last stand has laid out a stark and utterly critical view of mental health support, from its historical roots, as the source sees them, to its potential future.
It's definitely a challenging perspective.
And the source's central, really provocative conclusion is that, quote, charlatans like Freud and his predecessors have induced far more psychosis and neurosis in human beings than conversations with AIs will ever.
That's the final punch, essentially.
That's a powerful statement, isn't it? Challenging us to rethink who the true purveyors of mental well-being might be and whether the future of support, as this source claims, truly lies in the hands of increasingly sophisticated artificial intelligence.
And maybe this raises an important question for you, the listener, to consider. If, as the source suggests throughout its argument, critical thinking and questioning assumptions are vital,
Right.
especially in a world just saturated with information, how might we apply that approach to the very ways we seek understanding and support for our own minds?
Good question.
The text explicitly asks us to scrutinize who benefits from certain narratives around mental well-being and technological advancements. It's really a call to look beyond the surface, isn't it? To question the foundational beliefs, perhaps, of the systems that claim to support our psychological health, and to really consider the profound implications of emerging technologies like AI. What does it mean for our future, if the source is even partly correct? Something to think about.